The Late Lunch with Moorhall Lodge Retirement Village RD for secure, independent community living. moorhallliving.ie.
You're with The Late Lunch on LMFM radio, and I'm delighted to welcome back a man who's living in New York City for the last 13 years. He's from the county of Meath. He's been with us on Late Lunch before. Michael Brunnock, it's great to see you again.
It's great to be here, Gerry. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. Well, there's been a lot happening in your life this past while. Bring us up to speed.
Well, I've been living there for 13 years. I played with a Meath band called Little Palace, and we came back a few years ago and released some studio stuff we had and did a tour. That's what the last time I met you here. And but I've been living in New York that length of time, and in the last few years a few things happened music-wise. I've been playing all the time. I've released an album last year called The Orchard. I'm releasing a single in Italy this year with another band of producers I met. I came home to do a conference on Roger Casement. So Roger Casement, historical Irish figure. I'm playing at that and speaking at it, and I'm proposing to do an album of material based on his life. So there's lots of stuff, different angles, I suppose, happening at the moment with it, and it's just really come about in the last 2 years, I'd say, all of these things, you know, from keeping up the hard work.
Talk to me about the guys from Italy that you've now linked up with, or maybe take me back a step before that, how you met.
Well, I suppose I'll try and make it as brief as I can because I could be here all day, but when I was in New York 2 years ago, I got a call to do a demo for a potential soundtrack. The producer sent me a song, I did it, he liked it, he called me back, he told me that I was being selected to sing the songs and the soundtrack for the next Sean Penn film. The score was being written by David Byrne from Talking Heads, and I was a big fan of Talking Heads growing up, so it was a kind of a shock to me, and out of the blue, and it was one of those nice things that happen. So I did that soundtrack, the movie came out. It's a sort of indie movie. It's not a blockbuster. It's one of Sean Penn's. It was actually shot partly in Ireland, and subsequently the soundtrack and one of the songs was selected in the best song category in the Italian Oscars, the director being Italian. So they flew me over, and I went to that thing. It was almost like the exact same format as you'd see the Oscars in the States that we're used to seeing, and it won. So I got up and said me a few words, and some of the guys that I met there were in the same category I stayed in touch with, and they were producers, and we were staying in the same hotel. We also got presented with plaques from the Italian president. So he's was part of that also. And so we were together for a while, and we got to know each other, and we've been working together. We've released a single called Red Line. It's kind of a pop cross. I tell people it's a cross between Radiohead and Rihanna.
Strange combination.
Yeah. And so anyway, it's like it's something that it takes me out of my comfort zone, but I'm going there next week also to work on an EP with them, so looking forward to that. So that's really the short story, I suppose, of that aspect, yeah,
of what's happening, Michael Brunnock, at the moment. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a bit about the Roger Casement project, because that's really interesting.
After the film came out, I also had my own solo album, which I was working on for a while, and that was mixed by the same person, Pat Dillett, who he's a Grammy-winning mixer. He was involved with the film, so that was my last project, just finished. And I suppose since I moved to New York, I've been very interested in following the peace process and history and my own grandparents' stories. I suppose I'd look back into and seen the importance of family and staying in touch with Ireland and with my family. And so Casement is someone from the past that I just really got interested in. I was intrigued by his story, and he's an extremely, I suppose, interesting character. He's very multidimensional, and he's had his flaws, and he died in 1916, and he's not really as revered as the people we know as like Pearson Connolly, Larkin and stuff, because there was controversy at the time of his death. He was sentenced to death as a traitor, but he was basically outed as a homosexual by the British Secret Service, and all of this stuff came up then where the British were accused of forgeries, and that there's no doubt that they blackened his name in order to make him look bad so they could hang him, basically. But I think what's intriguing for me is coming up to 2016 is that kind of attitude would no longer be acceptable, and that we can now look at the man for what he was. And I feel that a lot of what he did, which he was an amazing humanitarian. He went to Africa, South America, he wrote reports about human rights abuses, and he is responsible for the lives of thousands and thousands of people. And there are millions of people today alive who wouldn't be alive if Roger Casement didn't live. And his story has never really been told because it's been clouded by this whole moral view of his sexual orientation, which I feel is a story that really is a story of today, and I was intrigued with that, and I've read some biographies on him, and this conference is coming up. It's an international conference in Tralee. That's where he landed arms from Germany just before 1916, and that's where the international conference is, and I'm taking part in that. I applied through my own work and through the music I've done to perform at that and speak at it, and it's something like it's a passionate thing I've taken on, and I want to really go with that as my own personal thing, despite whatever else happens. I think that's it about Roger for now, so.
And we're going to hear a song shortly, and we'll come back to it. 13 years in New York City, and I know you're into your history and you've observed what's happened in this country, and you've come home frequently as well while you've been over there. There can't be a better place to live in the world than the Big Apple.
Yeah, well, it is. It's true. I mean, it's a fantastic city. It really is. It's very, very vibrant, and you meet people of so many different cultures there. Like it's the people that are most amazing are always people who I feel who come from outside and come to live there and move there. And I think artistically I've grown a lot since I went there. And I think it also has, if you're constantly on a buzz, it's good to have downtime, and I really appreciate being able to come home and put my feet on the ground, as well. So, but it's a fantastic place. Sometimes you can feel artistically it's a little saturated, but it's great to have that community there, and you feel very much that you can get immersed in it, and it also supports in a way that maybe if you were isolated you wouldn't feel as supported, So.
You've really spread your wings and integrated over there, so to speak. But how important is your Irishness, or do you mix much with the Irish community, or is that a thing that's faded?
I feel there was a huge, that I missed the whole tiger thing, because I was gone when the tiger was a pup.
Weren't you lucky, some people would say, Michael?
Yeah, well, maybe I was, because I feel those values are coming back into Irish culture again, the ones we had before. And we recognise our mistakes sometimes. Well, hopefully we live and learn from them. But before all of that happened in the late 80s, emigration was very strong, like it is now almost. And a lot of that community has grown up and they have their own families there now. And those kids they're all teenagers now. And there's a huge interest in Gaelic sports. And I wouldn't be surprised if New York has a really good Gaelic team that will compete in the years to come here. It's just, it's phenomenal. Like, you've got great county players running these things, I admire that, and I think I've always admired that culture here, the GAA culture. I feel people look out for each other, and it's an honour. Like, we don't always appreciate it, but it's very important to honour your
So it's
history.
Still as stronger, you think, even
over there?
Yes, that
here?
bind over there.
Well, I suppose you have to choose to be part of it. I mean, in the periphery, I live in an Irish community, but artistically, I suppose I spread myself a little bit, and I very much appreciate New York's cultural diversity when it comes to art and music. So there's a fantastic, Irish music. If you want traditional music, the best place to hear traditional music, I feel, is in New York, because from the Riverdance era, they took such great musicians, youngsters, and they all got green cards, and now a lot of them are living there, and they're getting out there and doing stuff. So there's a great interest in traditional music in New York. Now, I don't consider myself a traditional musician, but I'm definitely influenced by it. So, but I suppose I have been very much aware of my roots, and I have a son who's 10. He's been back here a few times. He actually spent the whole summer here, and to me it's very important that he knows what his background is, because culturally the US can be a little bit weak. It doesn't. Sometimes people don't know who they are, and if you can trace back to who your father was, to me it's very important for everybody to know where you came from. And it comes back to times I think we had a huge shock as an Irish nation during the famine times, where we kind of lost connection to what was happening before. And when these things happen, when these traumatic events happen to us as a race or as a people, we can there's an innate shame and guilt that comes into things that we should be dealing with today. And that's why I feel Casement has a lot to teach us.
Let's finish up on Casement, and I feel you're a man who has the best of both worlds. You live in the greatest city in the world and come back to the best country, your homeland, when you can. But before we finish out with a song, I just want to mention that you're heading off into Europe now, and you're on tour at the moment. But you can be heard and seen. You're back in Navan in the Central Bar. And what will that night entail? Yeah,
the Central is a beautiful place. I was in it last week and I saw the rooms in it, and I think, like, musically I play in different ways, I suppose, and I really enjoy what I'm doing. I'm going to Germany tomorrow and on to Italy and doing a house concert series, so I love that intimacy where you're singing and communicating and telling stories to people. It's going back to the bard culture that we had, and I love that connection, and that's the kind of vibe I'm going to expect up there. It's a fantastic room up there, and it's like a living room thing. It's like going into someone's living room and playing for them. But it's also quite got the capacity to hold a lot of people. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to play there as a two-piece. I'm going to play with my old friend Anthony Cregan from Little Palace, and we're going to come up with a couple of new songs. And I suppose I'll do some of the Casement material and also back to stuff from the past. But it's mostly like about, I think, an intimate conversation between whoever comes and myself. So that's what I really want for that. The Italian thing is all pop, so I'll see where that brings me, but I won't be doing any of that in Navan.
Intimate, but capable of accommodating quite a crowd, and I'm sure there will be quite a crowd there on the Thursday night at the end of October. Will you play out for us? Introduce this one. It's about Casement.
Well, this one is actually one I wrote. It's funny, I wrote this one, it's on a previous album called So I Do. My present album is called The Orchard. This is called Breastplate, and it's a song I wrote following the peace process. And it's not unrelated to Casement, I suppose, but it brings in the Battle of the Boyne, which is just down the road here. I actually went to that site for the first time a few days ago, just to soak up the energy of it. So I watched the peace process develop. Without a green card, I was there for 6 years, and I was very intrigued with how it was handled, and proud actually to be an Irishman, to see how people from the fringes could come in and change. So that's what it's about. I bring a reference to Roisin Dove from, that's the female entity we give to Ireland. And also St. Patrick's Prayer from St. Patrick wrote lit a fire in the Hill of Slane, and that's, I suppose, where Christianity comes into things. Whether that be good or bad from what we were before, I don't know. But I think being from Meath and Ireland and these things, I suppose, were important to me. And this is called Breastplate.
Michael Brunnock, thank you so much for joining me on Late Lunch today, and let's finish off with Breastplate.
Okay. By the way, the tickets are for sale on the website for that gig.
We'll make sure everybody knows all about that in the Central, I can assure you, Michael. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerry. Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome.
William said to James, I'll meet you on the plains. By the Boyne we'll settle old scores. And year after year his ghost still appears, 300 summers and more. We're God on our side, a whistle and a drum, wearing the enemy down. I wish we could walk, I wish we could talk, and March be a month of the year. All our heroes reborn to be murdered in song, painted on the end of our streets. You blame the red hand for taking our sands, but there's a high tide a-coming, singing rise up, rise up, in the name of Pierce and Connolly, choking the dove, killing for love, to honor their memories. I'm lying there, how I miss your warmth in my bed. Oh, my Rosaline, how I long to be lying in your arms tonight. night's been so long, I'm faced with the dawn, for a flicker of light to appear. And I hear her sigh, her sweet scented breath whispers so soft through her tears. Won't you be Patrick's flame, burning on the hill, for we're all just one and the same. When the song that is sung will hurt no one, that's when our day will come. Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ in me, Christ in the eye that sees me, Christ in the ear that hears me.
To say, you've only reminded me how good you are. Michael Brunnock, thank you so much again for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Gerry. Pleasure to be here.
The Late Lunch with Moorhall Lodge Retirement Village RD for secure, independent community living. moorhallliving.ie